Hi everyone, welcome back to my beautiful people. This is your host Allie, and today we're going to be talking about finding work-life balance. I know it's kind of weird considering that most of my audience are students. Trust me, this works for students too. How do I know? I'm a student and that's why I know. So the first thing that I want to say before anything is I understand life happens, because life, as I've mentioned in the previous episodes, have happened to me multiple times. Thrown a bunch of curveballs, left a lot of small miracles, as well as hard life decision making. But work-life balance is possible, okay? And I know from my student parents that might be listening, you're probably thinking that's probably hard too. My dears, it is not. It is possible to do it. So these tips that I've actually gotten from an article from entrepreneur.com, I feel work well both with regular students as well as student parents, as well as anyone who is a parent and has to work. Because for me, as most of you know that has been with me since day one, you guys know I became a parent in high school, so it was my scenario was just a little bit more different than some of the other student parents. Some other student parents that I know are transfers from community college. Some of them are transfers from other universities. And I don't know their full backstory, so I cannot speak on their experiences. But with my experiences, it was a lot of, at first, it was a lot of sleepless nights. It was a lot of trying to figure out, your boundaries when it came to, finding care for your children, whether that be your parents or your sisters, or anyone just willing to help you out at that time, which was hard for me because I had said before, I did have a little bit of a difficult childhood just because my parents did split up, just because of, the emotions that I had inside. So it was difficult for me. So I didn't necessarily know where my boundaries were. I didn't necessarily know how to balance school with, being a mom, or more so being a mom and having to still hang out with the rest of your family, because at the time, my grandmother was still alive and we were still very connected with my dad's side of the family, who has, I feel, most of the culture that I was craving, at least at that time. So there was that. I didn't know, how to deal with friends or even maintaining a friendship during that time. So I didn't know how to maintain friendships. I didn't know how to still deal with family. I didn't know when is a good opportunity for me to study in order for me to be successful in school. Did I graduate? Yeah, I did. Did I graduate with the highest GPA for that particular year? No, not really, because I was a mom, and I, like I said before, I took so much time off for maternity leave so that I could go ahead and my body could somewhat heal, but for it to somewhat heal in order for me to be well enough to go back to school. So some of the tips that I found on entrepreneur.com, and like I said, it works for both students, regular students, and student parents, as well as parents who work for a living. One of the tips that I saw on there was to prepare the night before. A lot of people who have I want to say close relationships with either an older brother, an older cousin, or even their parents probably already have this skill set, and a lot of us weren't really able to develop it because so not all of us were able to build that skill set of prepping the night before, right? So one thing to prep the night before, especially if us students are on a budget, guys, because this is important. Not saying that you shouldn't, spend your money on campus so that, those of us working on campus could keep our jobs in the food industry part of the campus. But, making your food for lunch, if you're capable, making your food for lunch the night prior, whether that means cooking dinner and using leftovers as your lunch for the next day, whether that means following a meal plan that you decided to go on so that you could go ahead and not have to rush in the morning, in order for you to just be able to have food for the next day. That also would include, though, cleaning up the kitchen and making sure, you wash the dishes after you use them, you clean up the counters, all of that it goes into when it comes to, in a sense, meal prepping. The other thing to do for that section for prepping the night before would be to picking out your clothes for the next day. Now, I know a lot of people don't think about that, but you're going to be going to work the next day and they have a certain dress code. Lay out that clothes for the dress code. That way you're not, rushing in the morning to get your clothing. Whether that means, just grabbing your dark pair of blue jeans and your polo and knowing where your shoes are. Whether that means, if you work at the office, getting your trousers ready. If you decide, if you're one of those people that iron trousers, and then getting out the blouse for the day. You get what I'm saying? So it's doing that. The other thing would be to do is to make sure that, the purse or backpack or suitcase that you're using for the next day is prepped and ready to go. That would include, if you're one of those people that throw your keys everywhere, make sure your keys are inside your purse. Make sure that if you're going to school the next day, making sure that the correct notebooks and office supplies that you use for the class is inside that backpack. You're not gonna, and I'm gonna say it because I do it, not like if you're gonna go to your math class, making sure you actually have pencils in there instead of your regular pens that you always use, making sure you have the notes from the day prior so that you can skim through it real quick so you can remember where you are right before class starts in there as well, so you don't get lost in the classroom. But the last tip I have for y'all is to leave work at work. And I understand that for students it's different because we have schoolwork, so we have, projects and assignments to work with once we leave our campus. But for that, like for students at least, I would say when you're with your family, leave school at school. Or leave school in your bedroom. That way you could actually go ahead and enjoy every single moment you have with your family. And I do urge you to, enjoy that time, whether that be like with your parents or, your aunts and your uncles, your grandparents, because you never know when something happens and, you can't hang out with them anymore because they're sick or, they unfortunately pass away. Same thing with student parents, if you can, especially if you have younger kids, if you can, leave school on your computer or in your home office. That way you could go ahead and enjoy your time with your kids, because these times when they're little, it goes by so fast. And I feel like, as a parent, we're never going to get over being proud with them. We're going to find every excuse to be proud of our kids. But during this time especially, it's like, oh my God, like just seeing their smile on their face, like, warms your heart, right? So I would definitely say avoid when you spend time with your child, avoid doing any work whatsoever. I know even for me it's hard to do that because I am that person who's always on the go, as I've mentioned from my previous episodes. I am the person that's always on the go, so I'm always looking for the time to do it. But if they're asking for you to pay attention to them, just do it, guys. Like, put it down, just consider it as your break from doing homework, from stressing out your mind and trying to figure out how to do everything on that assignment, and just go and hang out with your kids and go and be a kid for a little while. Another tip actually that I just remembered would be to try to get used to using a planner. Now that Try to get used to using a planner. Now that is going to be difficult on your own. On its own, just because if you're not used to using a planner, I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna fall on and off the horse. Because I was the same way. Like, I did use a planner in high school, don't get me wrong, but as a freshman and sophomore in college, like, it was difficult for me to use a planner just because you kind of feel like you forget how to use one. So I would suggest, if you do decide to use a planner, go ahead and try to find the deals when Passion Planner has their deals. I would recommend Passion Planner. I feel like they're a very great planner to have, just because they do in the beginning explain how to use it, and then I'm sure if you look on YouTube of how to use it, the person on like that YouTube channel would also help. If you want me to show you how to use it, comment down below and I'll go ahead and do a tutorial on how to use a Passion Planner. That way you guys could all know how to do it. Another one, if you don't feel like ordering it or if they're just too expensive for you, I would definitely try to find one like maybe at your local store. That way that has at least the weekly days on there as well as the month. That way you could go ahead and actually get used to doing it and be like, okay, so this is what needs to get done today. You get what I'm saying? And if you're not like one of those people that like to use books or paper, God damn it. And if you're not one to that likes to use books or paper, then there are plenty of planner apps on Play Store as well as the Apple Store, so that you could go ahead and start doing that. Because that is one of the ways that I figured out how to somewhat balance work and life, as well as being a parent. Alright, so that was everything for today. I just felt like I really needed to talk about it, being week 7 of my semester, coming to terms with changing my current career path, as well as being a parent. I hope it's really beneficial for you guys. If you guys like this episode, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. That way you guys could keep up with all the podcasts. Like I had mentioned in my last podcast, I am in April planning to turn this into a video podcast, and we'll still go ahead and upload to iTunes as well as Stitcher, so that everyone can have access to the podcast. So if you like this podcast, please leave a comment below, and we'll see you next time.